We're here today trying to find one of the pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. That is the TQ industry rainbow. And with me today, I've got Rachel Scott. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hey, Penny, how are you? I'm good.
So Rachel's going to be a regular with me now. She's been part of our research team in Let Kids Be Kids for a while. She's also a mum and she's really invested in what we do, and she's been helping me a lot over the last probably 6 to 8 months, probably quite a while, I think, Rach. And so finally we're going to try and actually collaborate on and bring some of the stuff together that we have in the background and bring it to the forefront and try and drop some drops of information to help people. So what I would love is if you like this video, please like and comment, because we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel Penny Marie NZ, and also please share it with people across your platforms. That really helps us, and yeah, we love hearing whether this information is valid and helpful for you. So we'll provide all of the links below so people can go and have a look for themselves. I don't want them to just trust us on the conclusions that we've come to. We usually end up with more questions and answers at the end of it, eh, Rach?
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to just walk through something that is so-called not a political movement, which is a trans protest and lobby group that with something that just happened in Auckland recently. We're going to look at its connections to a North Island mega-iwi, one of its subsidiary charities, and then we're going to look at its connection to how corporations and agencies throughout New Zealand are required to comply with TQ industry beliefs and policies, and why that might be. So to kick off the discussion around it, Rachel found this great video of Larry Fink. Well, it's not a great video. It is great because it helps us to really summarize in a minute what's going on. So I'll just let Rachel introduce that as I bring the video up.
Yeah, so the short video by Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, is going to basically explain to us how the coercive mechanism that's being used by BlackRock is used to get companies to conform to DEI and ESG scoring. So for those that don't know what that is, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ESG is environment, social, and governance. And the video will speak for itself.
Now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we're doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay?
We're doing the same thing.
And so it's just, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
We're going to have to force change. So concerning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This ideological subversion that's going on, and this, the behavioral nudging from our mainstream media, because that is what's happening. Reality Check Radio did a really good segment with a guy, David Charalambous. Yeah, on behavioral nudging. Highly recommend people go and look that one up.
Okay, we'll put that in the link below. Yeah, people need to understand that this is not happening organically, and of course Larry Fink, that's the CEO of BlackRock, is one of the most wealthy people in the world. So what is he standing to gain from diversity, equity, and inclusion, from categorizing everybody, which we know creates division, creates anger amongst people, it creates polarity politically. But I always say #follow the money. There's someone who's benefiting from all of our the anger and the disagreements and the extremism that's happening. So he's just laid it out. He said that he has to force us into this, which means it's not organic. Someone is puppeteering at the top, and he's just said it's him. So we're going to show how that actually impacts on New Zealand. So where we're going to start today when we're looking at New Zealand is an event called Block the Ban, which happened in Auckland, in Myers Park, on Sunday the 7th of December. So it was a response to the November announcement from the New Zealand government that we were going to have the pause on puberty blockers for children who are not yet being prescribed them. So obviously it's prepubescent children. So this event, which was recorded by a couple of people on our side of the fence, which we're going to show you some of their material, was a protest against the government's ban or pause. So you can see here, we wanted to know who organised this event. So it says here, Block the Ban is a protest movement organised by a group of young, queer activists and allies upset with the government's actions, or people are allowed to be upset with the government's actions. Our kaupapa is focused on defending trans queer Takatāpui, which, by the way, for people that don't know, that's only relating to trans people that are Māori, so it's very, very hyper-focused, and all the other letters, and those letters there stand for kind of the Polynesian, other ethnic groups that would associate themselves with the trans movement. So these images, by the way, have been taken off the Block the Ban Facebook group when I went on there to try and figure out who was actually behind this event. So then it says, we are protesting the recent decision by our current government to ban puberty blockers for gender non-conforming youth under 18. And by the way, puberty blockers are for children that haven't gone through puberty yet. So you're not talking under 18, you're talking kind of under 13. Children. Children who cannot consent, you know, to this. They need their parents' consent anyway. So why are these young people all up in a fuss about it? Because they probably aren't parents themselves. It's always really good to remember that these people who are doing this are not parents themselves. Yeah. And then it says, a decision clearly targeted at our communities, blocking us from accessing gender-affirming care and maintaining our bodily autonomy. And I'll just point out there that the pause on puberty blockers for children doesn't block. It's not an end to the trans community, whether you like them or not. That isn't what this announcement is at all. So they're totally blowing it all out of proportion and saying that basically adults who want to identify as another sex are going to be, harmed. Well, actually, based on this report, this announcement from the government, they're not at all. Then it says, Block the Ban kaupapa, which is their intention, recognises that this is just one of many recent attacks on marginalised groups. So are you aware of any recent attacks on marginalised groups, these groups, Rach?
No, not at all. But I am aware of an attack on women.
Yeah, that's right.
A violent attack.
That's right. The Posey Parker event in 2023 is kind of the big one, and they try really hard to make out that it was them that was marginalised, and we all know that it was actually the other way around. Trans people have been repeatedly targeted. Well, have they? I mean, if you mean by targeted, if you mean like the government keeps throwing millions and millions of dollars at them and every policy bends over to them, then sure, they are being targeted. But not quite in the way that they feel the need to go and protest about. And then they talk about Destiny Church, which is of course the church that the church and the pastor Brian Tamaki that the trans movement love to hate. They bring him up all the time. And then it says the bathroom bill, which aims to prevent trans people from using public bathrooms. Well, I'll just call that out. So that's a bill that Winston Peters and New Zealand First is putting. They're not trying to stop anybody from using toilets. They're just trying to stop men from going into women's toilets. If you need to go to the toilet, you can go to the toilet. You just go to the one that's to do with your biology. This ban will go against, this is interesting, but this ban will go against Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Now, I'm not a Te Tiriti o Waitangi scholar, but I don't think that document that runs our country was written with trans people in mind.
No. No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
This is just where they get race and gender and tie the two together. Yeah. And really quickly, just to speak to queer as an identity, it's specifically set up for people to identify with something that sits outside the normal, the legitimate, and the dominant. So the norm.
Yeah. That's the definition of queering, right?
Yeah.
They're flipping everything. The thing that I see when I see them tying it all to Te Tiriti and everything else is I just see that they see bags and bags of money. And when they say there at the end of that sentence, multiple marginalisations, and in normal speak, what that means is I've attached multiple labels to myself. So I'm not only Māori, but I'm queer, and I'm probably disabled as well. And homeless as well is one of the ones that gets a lot of money. It's a whole big bag of money bags, really. So then it says, Block the Ban kaupapa is a non-violent community-led rally in March. So yeah, we'll watch a bit of the video in a minute, but they're not non-violent. They are the violent people. They cannot have a... Yeah, sorry.
They're fueled. They are fueled by the words and the the marketing that's used here. That it all is driven by anger and fear, and it's just to get these young children riled up over something, and they just they're lumping a whole heap of somethings together and going, no matter what you're angry about, we've got you covered.
Yeah, and if you just keep in mind, what Larry Fink was saying, he's admitting that they created this. They forced people into this position where they're absolutely divided and extremified. And then it says here, we are not affiliated with any political party. Well, they might not be affiliated with any political party, but political parties are certainly affiliated with this message. Green Party, Labour Party. I'm not so sure about Te Pāti Māori Party. I don't know. Obviously with the Tino Ranga Tiratanga flag, yes, but as far as the party themselves, I don't really follow them. So the other part here is that it says this event will be marshalled by Kaiawhina, which is translated to mean they're helpers or assistants. So then you kind of go, well, if they're a group that have just said that they're just a group of young people who are activists, they're not really affiliated with any group, who is the group that's coming along to help? And this is really where we're going to dig into today. And this is what they look like. So this is part of I've taken these from the video that we're going to show in a minute, from Auckland Citizen Silent Audits. Thank you for going along and getting arrested at this event to get this footage for us. So what you'll see is that they have their, and these are the kaiawhinas, because they are obviously the marshals. They're the volunteers that are running security. So they've got all their little security buttons in their ears. They've got their flak jackets. In fact, they're not high vis, they're flak jackets. And they all have the Tino Ranga Tiratanga flag on them. They also all have the trans flag, so not even the pride flag, just the trans flag on them. And they also have the Palestine. So it's got the trifecta of political extreme activism here. And then the other thing you'll notice is that they're all wearing black face masks.
You've got Larry Fink's race and gender right there in a photo. But the fact that they're all still wearing masks when there's no virus around, they're hiding. It's a way of hiding, yourself and your own identity. Where's the pride?
Yeah,
why the masks?
Why can't we see your smiling face as if you're there happily, really believing in what you're doing? But also it's really intimidating. Like, not only are they masks, but they're black masks. So it's very, very intimidating behaviour. And they're meant to be there keeping people safe, right? What I also noticed on these people as well was these Palestine Gaza support within, by the way, the Antifa colours, which also happen to be the Tino Ranga Tiratanga colours. I don't know if that's a unfortunate coincidence, but that is the international Antifa colours. So Yvonne Van Dongen is also another gender critical content creator, but like we are in the space, based in New Zealand. So she went along to the Block the Ban rally and she wrote a report, and we will put the link below because we think that it's a really good report, and thank you Yvonne for writing it and for taking photos as well. So she makes some really interesting observations about the kinds of people that were there. She said there were about 500 people, mostly in their 20s. She actually says she's struck by the sheer casual loveliness of the bloom of youth, which is really interesting observation. What she also grabbed was one of the flyers that they had printed out and were handing out. So you can see here how very political it is, because they are actually naming Winston Peters, the leader of New Zealand First, who was, the forerunner for getting some of this gender critical stuff through. So very political, very activism based.
There were a few sort of statements in there that she picked up on, the rhetoric that they're using. One of them was, you can't be anti-racist if you're not committed to taking down the heteronormative patriarchy. Another one was, no one is free until everyone is free. Revolution at any cost, fight back in the face of fascism until we win, alchemize pain towards justice.
Yeah, I just saw that one here. Yeah.
That's stirring up of the emotions and the, you know, and they're trying to direct it towards, by saying alchemize pain towards justice, and then, you know, and then in another sentence saying revolution at any cost.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can see what happens when angry people and fearful people try to create a revolution, you know, at any cost.
Yeah. And when they get all whipped up, it actually says here what's going on about Winston Peters and his imported culture wars, which is so crazy because their one is what's imported. Yeah, it's so mad. She did mention that there were speakers. I've got a list of the speakers, but she said one of them was from PATHA, Professional Association of Transgender Healthcare. They're all part of the same club. She also said, despite the Facebook page saying that they're not politically affiliated, Green MP Ricardo Menendez March was also allowed to speak. So there you go, right there.
Yeah, the tomato juice thrower, Elena.
Oh, yes.
Ileana Rubashkin, she was there.
Yeah. So this is some photos that she's took, and someone was saying to me the other day actually about this group of, not from this particular event, but this sort of activism group. This is their religion. This is their network of people that they'd show up to these events because this is their social network, their family, their religion. So it's important to sort of realise that they're, you know, I sort of look at it like that's rent a crowd, but this is their identity group, which is, you know, it's kind of sad. I feel really sad for young people that they're not sort of out there enjoying life, but instead they're just getting angry about something that's completely made up and, by the way, is lining Larry Fink's pockets. So, yeah. So this is Auckland citizen silent audits, and he showed up at this and obviously silent. So he just takes a camera and doesn't speak, doesn't interview anybody. And so you'll see what starts to happen to him. He actually gets arrested at the end for breaching the peace or whatever he's doing, where actually he was the one doing nothing and they were the ones trying to block him. So you'll see the start of it. We're only going to watch a few seconds of it. But what I want people to do is listen in to who's calling the karakia.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out today. We're going to open with Ngāti Whātua Soulwata giving us a karakia. Ātira, tēnā tātou, hei roko i tēnei ata. Tēnā rā tātou, i roto, tā manahitanga o opu.
Okay, so you heard what that was there. They said it was Ngāti Whātua.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ngāti Whātua, now we're going to look at who's Ngāti Whātua. And this is important because that then means that Ngāti Whātua was integral in the organisation of this event. My guess would be, given the security patches that they had on, that probably those kaiawhina actually came from Ngāti Whātua. Now that's an assumption based on the evidence that we're seeing. They could be from others, but given the location of this event and given the size of the mega-iwi Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, that potentially that is what was going on here. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, it is their region too, so it's highly probable that
that it is them. Yeah. So this is Ngāti Whātua. So for those who don't know, they are a mega-iwi in Auckland. I see them popping up wherever there's political events. So, for example, doing kapahaka overseas for things that are to do with promoting tourism in New Zealand and things like that. Usually I see that it is Ngāti Whātua, so they're very key iwi, and they do lots of things. So we're going to walk through some of the money today and some of the connections that we found. And I'm just going to read what it says here. Every member of Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei can trace their whakapapa to our shared ancestor, and I'm not going to get all the names right, to Periri, and are descended from three hapu. So Ngā Oho, Te Ao, and... Uringutu. Yeah, okay. So that is who Ngāti Whātua is. I'm only showing you that so that you know who it is, for those that are interested, and they're collectively all referred to as Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. So what we're going to look at is how they're funded. So we're just going to have, we're going to walk you through just a little bit of the funding because that's the stuff that we like to get into the nitty gritty here. So when you go onto the charities website, you can find how all the charities are funded, and what you find with mega-iwis and organisations a little bit like Ngāti Whātua is that they'll have layers. And actually this is the list when you type in Ngāti Whātua on the charities register, this is what you'll find. And you'll actually see under registration status there, the second to right hand column, that a lot of them have been deregistered because they've changed the structure of them. So the one that we're going to look at today is one called Te Runanga o Ngāti Whātua. Te Runanga o Ngāti Whātua in the last financial year had a total income of $121 million and change. And you'll see in previous years 100 million. But if you look back to 2020, you'll see they got 7 million. So they've somehow jumped from 7 million in 2020 to 120 million in 2024, which is very significant. We're not going to dive into all of the money here. We're just going to take you on one particular pathway, but we really recommend that if people want to go and do their own research, that they go and dig around, because even when I was looking at the financial reports I saw, but I was like, man, we could do 10 videos on this. Yeah. So
it's just one stream.
Yeah, it's just one stream. So what I'm going to do now is go to Consolidated Financial Report. So this is the financial report for this charity, Te Runanga Ngāti Whātua, for year ending 2024. Okay, so we're scrolling through so that we can show you that we're not just picking things out of thin air here. So what we're going to look at on page 3 is it says their main sources of revenue for the group, and I'm assuming that they put it in order of significance. So right at the top there is the Ministry of Health. Te Whatu Ora is their number one source of revenue, and then you'll see also that they get funding through housing and urban development because they're involved in projects such as residential housing, rentals and things like that. So just to show you where their funding comes from. I also want to call out here that it does say in the report that their goal, their mission, is to provide for the development of Ngāti Whātua as a strong and caring iwi. So they've got a specific mandate to provide help for their own iwi, right? So their own iwi is, they have 7,000 registered hapu members. Okay, so that's if that is correct what they're talking about, then they're doing all of this, and the $120 million in the last financial year is specifically to provide for development of their own 7,000 hapu members. Okay.
Yep.
So then we've got on the next page, we can go and see their group revenue. So their group is the subsidiary charities under them. Their group revenue is, for the last year, was $119 million, as you can see. Okay, so my question with connecting Ngāti Whātua to that ban the block protest, which obviously they're involved with, is what is their interest in puberty blockers? Are they overrun with trans children who want to be put on puberty blockers? Could that even be possible? And why are they supporting the block the ban protest? So my question then is, and I wanted to go back to Stats New Zealand, where it talks about the population base of the LGBTIQ plus population, and obviously in 2023 was the first time that they asked those questions. Here's the data from the census, and it says that 0.7% of the population surveyed identified as trans, which was 4.9% of LGBTQIA plus. And what I've got to call out there is that the majority of those people then, as in 4.2% of the people, were sexual minorities, i.e. LGB. They were not people who would identify as trans or would say that they've been born in the wrong body, okay? So of the 4.9%, you only end up with 0.7% trans. So of the 0.7% that have identified as transgender, including non-binary, what Stats New Zealand says is that 0.4% are in that category under variation in sex characteristics. Now, that is what they call intersex, meaning that they were born with atypical genitalia. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah, and so, but I've also done research, which I haven't got in front of me, which says that the majority of people that identify as intersex or have atypical genitalia don't require surgery, or it's not life-changing. So it might be a boy born with one testicle, or it might be a girl who doesn't have a uterus, but they're still XY or XX chromosomes, and they're not saying that they're born in the wrong body. They just haven't got a complete set of genitalia that would be typical. So that's the 0.04, which leaves 0.03 of the population that believe that they might be born in the wrong body or identify as something other than their biological reality. So, and then you've got to ask the question, how many of those people of the 0.3% would be under 18, i.e., and also, pre-puberty. So the numbers start to look really, really low there. And so the reason I'm saying this is that for Ngāti Whātua Aoraki, which has 7,000 people in their hapu, if you were to take this calculation from the census where 0.7% of the population that would identify as trans, that number equates in their 7,000 members, remembering that they primarily want to assist their own hapu, is 49 people. And that includes people with a variation in sex characteristics, which may or may not need an operation or anything at all, or any kind of intervention. So if you take those out, then you're left with 0.3%, which is 21 people within Ngāti Whātua that may want to have puberty blockers or wrong sex hormones or gender mutilation surgery. And so that question then goes, how many of these would be pre-puberty and so suitable for puberty blockers? So the numbers get minutely small for the amount of activism and involvement with this far left-leaning political ideology, which is saying that we're terrible people for thinking that children can't access puberty blockers. Like the numbers just don't stack up to the amount of effort that is put in, across the board, but it's quite good when we've got a ring fence number such as Ngāti Whātua, which is doing what they're doing for 7,000 members. Crazy numbers,
I think it's important to say here too that, a pubescent child insisting that they were born in the wrong body meets the clinical definition of a cognitive distortion. Yeah. So we're talking about 0.3% or 21 people.
Yeah. Do you want to just expand on what you mean by cognitive distortion?
Yeah. So cognitive distortions can come in all sorts of different forms. So you have black and white thinking, over generalizing, like saying that Pākehā are this or Māori are that, rather than putting the word some in front of it. And so this sense of feeling like you're born into the wrong body and that you need to change your physical body in order to match your cognition is a distorted way of approaching the situation. And so this is why, the US has put out their recommendations on how to help children with gender dysphoria is to go down the humanistic psychology track and explore cognitive behavioral psychology.
Yeah, so, rather than medicalization and sterilization and mutilation and castration.
So you're medicalizing and mutilating the physical body for something that can be explored cognitively.
Yeah, or could be a temporary feeling.
Yeah.
It's madness.
Because it's pre-puberty. There's a lot going on.
There's totally a lot going on. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back to the financial report, and I'm going to go to page 25, and this is where we start drilling into the subgroup. So this is the Ngāti Whātua financial report, and on page 25 it actually has a list or table of their group entities, so all of the entities that come under Ngāti Whātua. And so what you'll see here under healthcare services, there's two. You'll see that it's Affinity Services Charitable Trust and Kāhui Tū Kaha. So that's what we're really going to look at today, which, by the way, I think is one and the same. I think Affinity is now, it used to be Affinity, and now it is Kāhui Tū Kaha. Is that right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then now what I'm going to do is take you to the next tab. So this is Kāhui Tū Kaha, so the subsidiary group of Ngāti Whātua. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. They obviously do lots of different things. And by the way, what we're looking at today is, the annual reports, and it's all available online for those that want to go and have a look. So they're involved with social housing, they're involved with mental health support services, and you can keep scrolling down, and then they have other support and advocacy services, and you see the Pride Rainbow lanyards there. So I think we've hit the spot.
Yeah.
And I was on this page before. So what you'll see here is they have something called Toitū Takatāpui. So obviously people like me and you. Yeah. What is it? Sorry?
Toitū. Yeah, Toitū Takatāpui.
Takatāpui.
Like
They do
Toitū
make
Te
it-
Tērisi.
They do make it very hard when you're not Māori to keep up with all of these words. So anyway, I've known for a long time that this was Rainbow Tick, and they've now renamed it. So we see there, we support employers with looking after the safety and well-being of rainbow communities at work. So they're not dealing with the marginalised children. They're working on something to do with employers. So this is what we're going to look at next. So we're going to look at their annual report. Okay, so this is the annual report for 2024, and I'm going to go to page 9. And under their mental health services, this agency offers, they have something here called Rainbow Liaison Training. So again, it's training, not actually grassroots. And then under other services, they have this organisation here again, the Rainbow Tick. So they also have on page 15, I'm just going to go to a couple of different pages of here. So this is where we start getting into the detail, and Rachel's going to expand on some of this in a minute. So I'm just going to read this out. Toitū Takatāpui. In 2013, we were commissioned by our health funder. So just, you'll find out more about this in a minute, but the health funder that they're referring to at the time was Auckland DHB. Okay.
Yeah.
To write a report, Rainbow Health, the public health needs of LGBTQIA communities in Aotearoa, New Zealand, with policy recommendations. So this organisation was commissioned to write this report. The report acknowledged that there was not one clear and obvious solution to addressing the over-representation of rainbow communities in negative health outcomes. We developed the Rainbow Tick certification as our contribution to better health outcomes for rainbow communities. Sounds all very well, except for what it has ended up becoming. Our intention was and remains to address negative health consequences associated with heteronormativity. So what they're saying is they're associating negative health consequences to the fact that there is heteronormativity, being, i.e., the majority of people are heterosexual. And then they talk about the design of the tick. And then they say, over the last decade, 148 organisations have been accredited with the Rainbow Tick, with nearly 250,000 employees, which is a lot of adults in the workplace for a country of 5 million people. So they apparently benefit from inclusive workplace. And so then it says, along with the Rainbow Tick certification, we offer a range of educational workshops that can be accessed as part of the Rainbow Tick certification or stand alone. And so, this is the scary thing that I want, if you weren't worried already. So they talk about colonisation here. Colonisation brought restricting constructs of gender and sex to Aotearoa. Pretty worrying stuff, really.
Yeah, it's interesting, because my iwi in the north have always said that the women were the guardians of the whenua from the east to the west. The women, so you have that male-female, those male-female.
Binary.
Yeah.
Yeah, the binary was always there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to drop to page 24 now. So long. These are very long, professionally made reports. And this is where I just want to look at the money. So here you've got this organisation, Kāhui Tū Kaha. In the year ending 2024, they made a revenue of $100 million. Okay, so this is separate to the $119 million that Ngāti Whātua made. This is their own. And so in here it says that 1% of their revenue was from Toitū Takatāpui, meaning $1 million of their revenue came from the Rainbow Tick. So it came from the companies that were paying into the Rainbow Tick. They're actually earning money off this industry that's been created. So I'm just going to flick now to you to show, I'm going to bring up the map that we talk about, and I want to let you talk about that history there going back to 2013.
Yeah, so this probably looks a little bit all over the place for people watching. This is a mind map, and it's actually a lot bigger than what we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, show
But
people
just
all
to
your
give
work.
yeah, that's only one of them.
This is what we spend our days making. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what happened is in 2013, the Auckland DHB commissioned Kāhui Tū Kaha to report on the public health needs of the LGBTQ plus communities, which they say. And this work led to the development of the Rainbow Tick in 2014, with Kāhui Tū Kaha delivering it under that initial and ongoing contract. So ongoing still today. In 2022, the government at the time and the Minister of Health, Andrew Little, completely restructured New Zealand's public health system. And they brought in what's called the Paiora Healthy Futures Act 2022 to give effect to, giving effect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And so this act that is the primary law governing the public health system. So basically you have all the DHBs and now under Te Whātua Order, which is what it was renamed to. Yeah. And so Te Whātua Order is the single national health service provider and commissioner, fully government funded Crown entity.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the government commissioning Kāhui Tū Kaha, and together they create the Rainbow Tick, and then Kāhui Tū Kaha delivers it by way of training and whatnot that we've seen. So the whole purpose of the Rainbow Tick certification, or what it requires, is an evaluation of your existing workplace culture through the review of organizational policies and practices and surveying of your staff. If the criteria for certification is not fully met, specific recommendations are made to guide you towards making those changes to meet, the diversity, equity, and inclusion quotas. So this is where it moves into.
It's exactly what Larry Fink was talking about. Yeah.
So you have all of these corporations in New Zealand, and not just New Zealand, across the Commonwealth and the world. These big corporations signing up to get these ticks. Yeah. And there's just a massive amount of money that's being generated off that alone, and forcing behaviour through the workplace.
Yeah, do you want to just touch on the stuff you've put here about the Ardern era?
Yeah. So I call it the Ardern era. There were lots of changes that occurred during that time with Labour, but you see there
dusty time in New Zealand's history. Yeah.
What's that? Sorry,
I said that dusty time in New Zealand's history.
Yeah. There's so many things about that era, but let's focus on this one. So it's all about compensation, right? And gender and race. They're tying the two together, and you can see there from Jacinda's own post. There she is, sort of buddying up next to the United Nations and onto BlackRock, for to do what they're doing now. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and those big banking and investing companies are starting to backpedal now on their ESG scoring, environment, social governance, and net zero. Yeah, don't want to say it, but it's almost like a bit of a tap in a gap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
Force that change and then get out.
Then get out. Yeah, we're not really seeing that here in New Zealand, but we are seeing that over in America, which is good. Yeah, tap and gap. I like that. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have more of a look at that. But before I move off this page, do you want to talk about this one here, Val?
Oh yeah. So just a little bit of a side story. Andrew Little's sister Val Little served as a program manager for Rainbow Tick since at least mid 2019. So you can read there. Yeah, in this role, she oversees the certification process for organisations seeking LGBTQ plus inclusive accreditation. Yeah.
Bit of nepotism there, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's only a tiny little slither of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, for those of you who enjoy all of this stuff, this is the kind of stuff that Rachel and I will report out way more on as we go. This is just our first go at trying to unpack a little bit of it for you. So now I want to just show what the Toitū Takatāpui website, which used to be the Rainbow Tick, what is on here. So it's people can go and have a look. And you can see where their members are. So these are some of those were just screenshotted there on the mind map. So they've currently got 94 members, and it's quite good actually how they've created these filters for us. So if you really want to know which ones are government and public service that are funding this, then you can just go to that. And one of the ones that really concerns me here, of course, is the intelligence community, which is that one there, is part of the Rainbow Tick, as well as the Public Service Commission and then Revenue Department, MFAT. They all pay money into the Rainbow Tick to get this accreditation so the money go around. So the patron of this organisation is Louisa Wall. So she's Labour. So you can't, again, say that this isn't political because she has been the patron of it. So she's got blogs and things there. So it's very, very activist based. Now they have this Rainbow Tick certification, but there isn't a huge amount of information on there. It does say that the annual cost could be as low as $1,100. Yeah, so there's not as much information on the financial breakdown of what the member groups pay on the Toitū Takatāpui site as there is on another one that's similar to it called Pride Pledge. So we're just going to go sideways a little bit, and and we're just going to show you what how the pricing is structured with Pride Pledge to work out how much money we think is how it's being split. So with the Pride Pledge, you go to certification page, and like Rachel was saying, it explains how, what the hoops that they have to jump through to become rainbow ready as a workplace, and their sort of stock take and things like that. This is what they're paying for, is basically being told how to be more rainbow effective as a business, which is crazy. Okay, so then you go to this certification brochure. So this document, which is available on their website, you can go and have a look at. So it explains it's like a 3-year cycle and certification. So they have what's called bundle options. And again, this isn't the Ngāti Whātua one, but I'm just showing you for pricing. So up to 500 employees, these companies pay $7,500 a year for this, on a 3-year cycle, by the way. If they have up to 1,000 employees, they pay nearly $12,000 a year. And if they have over 1,000 employees, they pay $16,500 a year. So going back to the Rainbow Tick one, so there are 94 current businesses or organisations under this one. And going back to the annual report, the revenue that they took was $1 million. So based on that calculation, $1 million into 94 organisations equals it out to saying that they could have paid around about $10,638 each to be part of the Rainbow Tick. So that's how the money comes in from the corporation. So we go and spend our money at the supermarket, the gas station, the insurance company, the bank, and then they pay a lot of money into this organisation, who then pressure them using, what are they calling it? What does Larry Fink call it? Force them to comply. Forced behaviour to comply with DEI processes for their ESG scores. So that's how the money go round seems to work. That's what we've been able to work out, and it's in lockstep around the different countries of the world, mainly the Commonwealth countries. So they would be the countries that seem to be being controlled by BlackRock policies, potentially investment. That's kind of where we're at, Rachel?
Yeah, Australia piloted theirs in 2010 and then brought it out in 2013. So we were sort of on par with them. The UK had their version of the Rainbow Tick or Pride Pledge 2001. Canada 2008. Then in came Australia and New Zealand, and then on to South Africa. Yeah. So for those people who are led to believe that this is happening because there's a real issue and suddenly all of our children are trans, no, it's not. This is about money, and Larry Fink doesn't care about you or your children. He cares about his bottom line. He cares about control. He cares about forcing people and corporations to do his bidding.
And I think Ngāti Whātua and these iwis, they're either winning out of it and they know it, or they don't understand what's going on, and they're creating industries and jobs around this. So yeah, they have a revenue of over 120 million. And I'm not saying it's all related to this, but they only have a membership base of 7,000 hapu members, and they say that they're committed to positive outcomes for its whānau. And so then you've got to ask, why are they so invested? Why did they do the karakia? Why was it obvious that their people were the security detail with all of the badges at that protest? Why do they always seem to be turning up to these things? Why was a Green Party member there? Why is the organisation that they are the lead of got a Labour MP as their patron?
Yeah. And why are they saying that they're not political when clearly
it's so political? I mean, Labour Party has a Labour Party has a spokesperson for rainbow issues, being Shannon Halbert. You know, it's very, very political. So we all know this. We can see parts of what's going on, but I think what really strikes people at the moment with the economy the way that it is and people struggling is the money side of things. That some people are making a lot of money about this. They're also shutting down free speech. They're shutting down the voices of parents that are really genuinely concerned about what's going on in schools. So it's a big money go round, and thanks to Larry Fink, he explained it very well to us as to why we're going through it.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell. I think it'd be really good if people just jump in the comment section and just start sharing your own opinions, you know, good, bad, or otherwise. And
let us know if you liked what we were able to walk you through today, if you would like to see more of it, because we're planning on doing more of it. But firstly, we want to know whether it's what you guys want to see. We want this to be influential policy wise. So please like and share and subscribe and encourage us, or tell us that this doesn't make sense or whatever you want to do. But please go and look at the data yourself. We really want people to just dive into it themselves. We know people are busy, but don't just trust us. Go and make up your own mind about this.
Yeah.
Hey, so thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate your energy, your time, and your skill at mapping everything and doing all the research with me. And I think that we're gonna do a lot more of these in future.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for getting me on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
That's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay?
We're doing the same thing.
And so it's just, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities. And we're going to have to force change.